welcome to this deep dive. You've brought us some really compelling material today. We're digging into excerpts from Arthur Schopenhauer's Counsels and Maxims, specifically the T. Bailey Saunders translation.
A classic text.
Right. And our mission, using the material you shared, is really to unpack these writings together. We want to see what key insights Schopenhauer offers. How to navigate life, maybe find some happiness, understand ourselves and others better.
Using him as our, let's say, rather stern guide.
Definitely stern. And this is tailored for you, based on the sources you provided. Okay, let's jump right in.
Great. Well, Schopenhauer certainly doesn't pull any punches, does he? He starts with this fundamental idea about happiness that, well, it really challenges how most of us think.
You mean how he says happiness isn't really a positive thing?
Exactly. It's not something you get. He sees it as negative.
Negative?
Yeah.
Like just the absence of bad stuff?
Precisely. The absence of pain and also the absence of boredom. That's his definition.
Okay. Because pleasure, he thinks, is just temporary.
Right. He says it can never last very long. Pain, on the other hand. Pain is felt positively. It's a real presence, an intrusion.
Ah, I see. So because pain feels real, the absence of pain becomes the actual attainable goal, the true standard.
That's the logic, which makes that Voltaire quote, "Happiness is but a dream and sorrow is real," sound less like poetry and more like a statement of fact for Schopenhauer.
Yeah. Okay, so if you buy that, it totally changes your life strategy, doesn't it?
Completely. You stop chasing those fleeting pleasures. The smart move, the wise approach, is to focus on avoiding evil, avoiding suffering, as much as you possibly can.
So trying to, buy pleasure by risking pain is just foolish.
Just the height of folly, in his view. You're trading something potentially real and awful for something temporary and maybe illusory.
That's that analogy he uses, viewing the world as a kind of hell. And you're just trying to find a little room that shall not be exposed to the fire.
It's a stark image, isn't it? But it gets the point across. You're not aiming for paradise, just a safe spot.
So the fool chases pleasure, gets burned.
Finds himself their dupe, as the text says. Often ends up in more pain, but the wise man focuses on dodging the evils.
And if the wise man still suffers?
Well, that's just fate then. It's not his own stupidity. Because the evils he did avoid were real. And the pleasures he missed out on, probably chimerical, not worth crying over.
And he thinks a lot of our unhappiness actually comes from not getting this.
Yes.
From optimistic ideas.
Yes, exactly. We have these restless wishes, these grand illusory pictures of happiness. When reality inevitably falls short, boom, pain.
Like Schiller's idea, being born feeling you have a claim on happiness.
Right, like we're owed some idyllic Arcadia. But life, or fate, quickly disabuses us of that notion. That quote from Merck is sharp.
Which one was that?
It is the wretched way people have of setting up a claim to happiness that ruins everything. A man will make progress if he can get rid of this claim.
Wow. So the practical advice is basically lower your sights a lot.
Set very moderate limits on what you expect from pleasure, from possessions, rank, everything. Don't aim so high.
It connects to that Horace quote, right? About the tall pine. The lofty tower is getting hit by storms.
Perfectly. Standing out makes you a target. For storms, for envy. The golden mean is safer. And Saidi, a Persian poet, says something similar. Worldly things aren't worth getting too worked up about, joy or sorrow, because we're just passing through to a better world.
But Schopenhauer admits it's tough to really live this way because of the hypocrisy of the world.
Oh, yeah. The constant pretending. It's everywhere.
Those analogies in the text are vivid, like stage scenes trying to look joyful.
Or ships firing cannons and lighting fireworks to simulate joy. Empty funeral processions showing how hollow worldly esteem is. Even fancy parties.
Right. He says they're often just filled with compulsion, pain, and boredom, even with famous people there.
It reminds me of that Schemfer quote.
About society being like a miserable play.
Yeah, like a miserable play or a bad opera supported by mechanical aid, costumes, and scenery. It's all surface.
So academies are just signboards for wisdom, but wisdom's probably elsewhere.
That's his take. Bells and fancy clothes might just be false piety. It's all like a hollow net. The good stuff, the kernel, is small, often not where you expect it, found by chance.
Okay, so if it's all like that, how do you actually tell if someone's happy? Not by looking at their pleasures.
No, absolutely not. You look at what troubles them.
Well, troubles them.
Yeah. The more trivial the things that bother someone, the happier they probably are.
That seems backwards.
Well, think about it. If you're easily irritated by tiny things, it means you don't have any big things to worry about. You're actually pretty well off. In real misfortune, you don't even notice the trifles.
Huh. That is,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting way to measure it. Okay, so if chasing external happiness is a minefield, the focus has to shift inward, right, to managing ourselves.
Exactly. And he starts by criticizing how we make these huge, extensive preparations for life.
Like planning for this long future.
A future few people actually reach. Or it takes way longer than expected, and it's always getting disrupted by chance. Often, the wealth or position you work for comes too late, or someone else ends up enjoying it.
But he does say that illusion, that hope, is kind of what makes us do great things in the first place.
It's a strange paradox, isn't it? The dream fuels the work even if the outcome isn't the dream itself.
He sees life as a journey where the view keeps changing.
Yeah, the landscape changes, your perspective changes as you get closer, your wishes change too, and often what you find isn't the specific pleasure or joy you were aiming for.
It's something else.
Something else entirely, and this is key. He says what we actually gain are things like experience, insight, knowledge.
The real permanent stuff, not the fleeting illusions.
Exactly. These are the real blessings. It's a theme you see in serious literature, like Goethe's Wilhelm Meister. The hero seeks one thing, finds wisdom instead.
Or the magic flute. Tamino seeks Tamina, a Poussin, but gets initiated into wisdom.
Right. While Papageno, the simpler guy, just wants his simple pleasures and gets them. There's a contrast there.
So people of real worth, they kind of submit to fate's lessons. They accept the journey for what it teaches them.
Yes, precisely. They let themselves be molded. It's like the alchemists again.
Right, looking for gold.
But discovering gunpowder, china, medicines, laws of nature instead, hugely important things, just not what they were looking for. In that sense, Schopenhauer says we are all alchemists.
That makes reflection really important then. Looking back at life plan, even if you only see it afterwards.
Especially if you have some kind of special work or career. Understanding your real object, your calling, your place, that's the Greek nothisoten, know thyself. Having even a miniature plan helps keep you on track, avoid false paths, it stimulates and ennobles.
But you only really get it looking back, like that traveler seeing the road from a height. In the moment, you're just reacting.
Acting out of necessity, basically. Based on your character, your motives, your abilities at the time, you're just trying to achieve present aims.
You're not thinking, oh, this is a great deed.
No, you're just doing the task at hand. Only later, looking back, do you see the true significance, how your character shone through, or where some flaw led to trouble, whether instinct guided you well or badly?
This whole looking back thing really emphasizes how tricky it is to balance the present and the future.
Oh, absolutely. Most people get it wrong. They live only in the present, which he calls frivolous, or they're consumed by anxiety about the future. Finding the balance is rare.
But he insists the present is the only reality.
The only reality, the only certainty. The future rarely turns out as expected. The past wasn't quite how we remember it. They seem bigger than they are because of distance.
And we're just terrible at appreciating the present moment while it's happening.
Aren't we just, we don't value being pain-free until we're sick. We live through happy days without noticing and sigh for them later, waste pleasant hours being grumpy. His advice, honor the bearable present moments. Even the ordinary ones, remember, they're slipping away into the past, where memory will turn them into a lost paradise.
Another big part of managing yourself seems to be occupation, keeping busy.
Yes, life is movement, as Aristotle said. We need constant occupation, physical and intellectual. Idleness leads straight to boredom.
And boredom is dangerous.
A direct source of countless sufferings, he says. Dissipation, chasing society you don't need, extravagance, gambling, drinking. It all stems from boredom. He quotes, "Difficiles in otio quis." It's hard to be quiet when you have nothing to do.
External activity has its own problems, though. Ups and downs, shocks.
True. But intellectual occupation, if you have the capacity for it, he sees as more conducive to happiness. Though he does warn that one can make you unfit for the other.
But for those who can do creative or intellectual work, there's a unique happiness there.
A higher interest, a rare flavor to life. They live a double life, being both the actor in the experience and the spectator observing the creation. It's deeply fulfilling.
So the takeaway is, everyone needs something to do according to their abilities. No regular work is miserable. Even travel needs purpose.
Effort and struggle are just natural. If we don't have a real need, we invent one. Hunting, cards, arguments, plotting, whatever it takes to end that intolerable repose. Occupation is fundamental.
And part of this self-management involves constantly reflecting, looking back, comparing judgments.
Yes, to learn from experience. Experience is the text. Reflection and knowledge are the commentary. You need both. Too much reflection on too little experience is like a book with 2 lines of text per page, drowned in commentary.
And just living randomly without reflection
Leads to chaos, confusion in your thoughts, feelings, mincemeat conversation, he calls it. Especially bad for people living restless lives with little going on mentally.
It's interesting that memory holds on to what we did more than how we felt.
A useful detail for that self-reflection process.
Okay, so we've got managing ourselves, our inner state. What's the next big source of trouble? Other people, I assume.
Bingo. That Schopenhauer quote sets it up perfectly. Le bonheur n'est pas chose aisée. Il est très difficile de le trouver en nous et impossible de le trouver ailleurs. Happiness is tough to find in ourselves, impossible to find elsewhere.
Why impossible?
Because dealing with others brings countless and unavoidable burdens, disadvantages, dangers, annoyances, just friction.
So trying to find happiness in parties, high society, that's a dead end.
A mistaken path, yes. Because those things are just attempts to distract from or transform our fundamentally difficult existence, which he thinks is impossible.
Which leads him to value solitude so highly.
Immensely. And he says your relationship to solitude reveals your personal value.
How so?
Well, a wretch left alone just feels their own misery more acutely, but someone with a great intellect finds delight in their own thoughts, their inner richness. Solitude forces you to be with who you are.
And if you're, intellectually gifted, you feel alone even in a crowd.
Often, yes. Because others who aren't like you can disturb your peace, drag you down, rob you of yourself without offering anything worthwhile in return.
And society itself kind of conspires against recognizing real merit.
He thinks so. It ignores natural differences in intellect or morality and sets up artificial ones' rank positions. So the low get elevated, the high get depressed. Vulgarity reigns because, well, there are more vulgar people.
What specifically offends the person of intellect in society?
The pretense of equality. Society insists on equal rights leading to equal pretensions, but this clashes dramatically with the actual inequality of abilities. So, for someone with a lot to offer intellectually, society offers little profit compared to solitude.
He calls things like fashion or good tone a false superiority.
Right. It's a conventional stand-in for real intellectual superiority, and its weakness shows when it meets the real thing. His zinger is, good tone means absence of good sense.
Ouch. Pretty harsh. So perfect harmony is only possible alone.
In his view, yes. Friends, partners, they inevitably bring some level of discord. Profound peace requires solitude.
So why are people so sociable then, if it's so problematic?
2 main reasons, he thinks. 1, they literally can't stand being alone. They can't endure their own company.
Because they're empty inside.
A vacuity of soul, he calls it. It drives them to seek distraction, excitement, crowds, drink. They only possess a small piece of humanity themselves, so they need lots of others to feel whole, like musicians who can only play 1 note each.
So they get bored easily.
Terribly bored. Omnis stultitia laborat fastidio sui. All folly suffers from weariness of itself. The monotony of their own being makes solitude unbearable.
Which brings us to the porcupine fable.
Ah, yes. A brilliant analogy. We're like porcupines huddling for warmth. That's the need for society.
But we prick each other with our quills, our unpleasant qualities.
Exactly. So we shuffle around until we find a distance where we get some warmth, but not too many pricks. That distance is politeness, good manners.
And if you get too close?
You get told to keep your distance. It's a compromise. But the person with enough heat in himself, enough inner warmth, enough internal resources can just stay outside the huddle. Doesn't need it.
So being unsociable isn't necessarily bad.
Not in this framework. It might just mean you don't care for dull or unpleasant company. Having enough in yourself to do without others is seen as great fortune.
Because most suffering comes from other people.
Almost all of it, he claims. Solitude is the price of peace of mind. The only reasons we seek others out are mutual need and boredom. Take those away, and we'd prefer to be alone, enjoying our own exclusive importance, which gets diluted in a crowd.
And this changes with age.
Generally, yes. Kids hate being alone, young people are sociable, but the love of seclusion often grows later in life.
Why?
It's a product of reflection, of realizing the wretched stuff of which most people are made. It's a distinguishing feature of nobler minds developing as desires fade. He quotes Petrarch wanting to flee twisted and dark minds, Schemford's sarcastic comment about society being a dangerous forest. Sadi, Bruno, thinkers who valued it.
And old age naturally helps with this.
It lays the foundation. Illusions fade, the active years are gone, the young see you differently. Time speeds up, so you focus more on intellectual interests.
But you need the intellect to actually enjoy solitude, right?
Absolutely. If you're barren or vulgar, remaining sociable in old age just makes you troublesome, he suggests.
Okay, so when you do have to interact, what's the best strategy?
Cultivate indifference to others' opinions. It fosters tolerance. Don't live with them emotionally, even when you're physically among them. Keep an objective distance. Protects you.
Like the fire analogy again. Warm yourself, don't get burned.
Precisely. And some specific tips. Don't argue opinions, it's endless. Don't correct mistakes in conversation, it offends easily.
And absolutely no self-praise.
Never, even if true. Vanity is common, merit isn't. It just looks like vanity. Though he adds Bacon's cynical point that maybe some self-promotion sticks, like mud. But generally, avoid it.
Silence is golden.
Highly recommended. Don't think aloud when alone or conversation becomes thinking aloud. Keep a gap between thought and speech. People believe what you say until you prove otherwise. Don't give yourself away unnecessarily.
And watch how others act, to judge their value for you.
Yes, and adjust how you deal with them. Remember, character doesn't change. Forgetting someone's bad traits is like throwing away money you earned the hard way. It protects you from bad friendships or intimacy. Give way neither to love nor to hate, that's key. Politeness is just a tool, like a counter, a fake coin. Be generous with it, but don't mistake it for real value or let it cost you something real. Combine politeness with pride.
Why do insults get under our skin so much?
Because we overestimate our own value, our pride is inflated, and we don't really know how others see us. Politeness is just a mask. If it slips, rudeness, don't freak out. It's just the mask coming off. He also notes that noble, gifted people often lack worldly wisdom because it's hard for them to follow abstract rules that go against their innate character. Nature resists artificiality, though he makes a weird exception for aventurine quartz.
And affectation is always bad.
Always contemptible. It's deception, cowardly, a self-condemnation because you're admitting you lack the quality you're feigning. People see through it. Hiding bad things, dissimulation is one thing. Faking good things, affectation is another.
Seeing others' flaws helps us see our own.
Yes, they act as a mirror for our own vices and follies. Useful for self-improvement.
What about alliances and friendships? More pessimism.
Pretty much. Young people think alliances are based on shared tastes or feelings. Later, you realize they're mostly based on material interest. That's all most people understand. Conventional arrangements exist because misery and need are common.
And true friendship.
Rare as a sea serpent. Requires absolute identification, which clashes with our inherent egoism. Even ordinary friendships are fragile if you heard what friends say behind your back. Distance also kills them. Friends become abstract ideas.
Okay, let's shift to fortune, fate, and the ages of life. He says life's basically the same everywhere.
The core elements, yes. Cottage or palace, it's the same stuff, like different shapes made from the same paste in a sweet shop. Or a kaleidoscope, same bits of glass, different patterns. Success and failure aren't as different as they seem.
And the big powers ruling life are
Sagacity, wisdom, strength, and luck. And he thinks luck, tutu, is the most powerful.
like the wind in sailing.
Exactly. Your effort is the rudder, but luck is the wind. A good wind means you barely need to steer. A bad squall can wreck everything, no matter how skilled you are.
That's Spanish proverb. Give your son luck and throw him in the sea.
Sums it up. Chance is malignant because it shows merit means nothing against its whim.
So blaming ourselves when things go wrong isn't entirely fair.
No, because life involves events, our own choices made with limited information, and this inner impulse or instinct he talks about. Decisions often come from deep within, not just logic. Judging them later by abstract rules misses the point. The result and later wisdom are the only real judges.
This instinct, like a forgotten prophetic dream guiding us.
Possibly. Something giving life a strange unity we only see in hindsight, like Gracian Sly sees an innate sense of the right path. It's deeper than abstract principles learned later.
And time. We should always remember things are fleeting.
Constantly. Picture things reversing. Experience teaches instability. Things seem permanent, but they aren't. Don't plan too far ahead. Sometimes you just need courage to face danger, hoping it passes. We always think the present will last forever.
What's this sacrificing to evil spirits?
It's his phrase for preventative measures. Spending time, money, effort, limiting yourself now to close off potential future misfortunes. Insurance is a public version of this sacrificing to anxiety.
And when bad things do happen.
Don't overreact. No huge celebrations, no deep despair. Things change, our judgment is often wrong. What seemed bad might turn out good, and vice versa. Think of King David accepting his son's death. Fatalism accepting necessity can be soothing.
Treat small mishaps as practice.
Exactly, like Siegfried armed head to toe. Don't let small things pierce your armor, keep them at arm's length.
Because often what we call fate is just.
Our own stupidity. Homer praised shrewd counsel, Midias. Stupidity gets punished in this life. Cunning beats brute force. The ideal person is never indecisive, never rushed.
Courage is important too, though.
Vital, next to prudence. Inherited mostly. Can be excessive, rashness. Fear is necessary, but cowardice is too much fear. Nature gives us fear, but mixes in pointless fears. The world's full of panic.
Okay, let's get into the ages of life. He sees them almost as different worlds.
Very distinct phases.
Childhood is.
Arcadia. Simple. Focused on learning. Intellect develops early. Life feels new and delightful. Education gives ideas, but real understanding comes later through intuition. Core qualities are innate.
Youth.
Thirst for real-life doing and suffering. You hit the harsh realities, the will gets thwarted, disillusionment sets in, l'âge des illusions est passé. Life isn't the romance novel suggested. Education often makes this worse by feeding illusions. Chasing the poetry of life leads to pain.
And priorities shift dramatically with age.
Yeah, youth chases pleasure. Age focuses on avoiding pain, securing your position. You handle misfortune better when young, but you're better at preventing it when old. A knock at the door means pleasure for the young, trouble for the old. Old age accepts that prodigious happiness just doesn't exist.
After 40, things calm down.
Less passion, more restfulness. The mind gets contemplative. Intellect takes over, and since intellect is beyond pain, it becomes a source of happiness.
He wished education was more realistic. Less novels, more biographies.
Exactly. Eradicate the idea the world offers easy happiness. Show reality.
Expectations change too. Youth expects a lot from others.
Leads to disappointment, then often misanthropy after 40, especially for intelligent people. You compare yourself, find others wanting, withdraw. Whether you like solitude depends on your self-worth. He brings up Kant on misanthropy too.
And being too quick to adapt to the world when young is bad.
A sign of vulgarity, he thinks.
Right.
Being surprised, awkward, astonished by people that suggests a nobler character.
Time speeds up as we age.
Dramatically. Feels endless when young, used recklessly. Scarce later. Life seems short looking back. Slower in youth, faster in age. First quarter feels longest, richest. Young people get bored more easily.
Memory shifts too. Bad stuff fades.
But unimportant details stick if repeated. Memory gets shorter if you're very dizzy. The past shrinks like the view from a boat leaving shore. Life feels short.
Vital energy declines after 36, like living on capital.
Yeah, the deficit grows, things accelerate downwards. Scary if wealth declines too. Love of money increases and strength fades. So save your strength early. He also criticizes hothouse education. Clever kids often become ordinary adults.
Different periods suit different people.
Some peak young, some old. You're only fully conscious in youth, half alive later as things become routine. Life gets more unconscious near death. Time leaves fewer marks.
Intellect changes, but character doesn't.
Intellect peaks and declines. Knowledge grows until faculties fail. Character is fixed. This explains the variety of minds at different ages. Life shows you who you really are, leading to maybe a lower or higher self-assessment, depending on what you see in yourself versus others.
Passions rule youth, intellect rules age.
Generally, passions bring more pain than pleasure overall. Age cools them. Intellect offers a more stable, pain-free source of contentment. Pleasure is negative, remember, so losing youthful pleasures isn't a huge loss in his book.
Old age is less charmed by the world, less bored.
Past the illusions of senses and imagination, less bored if the mind is developed. Intellect combats boredom. Experience and reflection compensate for lost strength. Occupation remains vital.
But poverty in old age is terrible.
A great misfortune. Need comfort. Money replaces strength. Maybe wine helps too, he cheekily adds.
And the biggest difference, youth looks to life, age looks to death.
Yeah, and he poses the question, which is better, having life ahead or behind you? Is life worth the trouble?
He lists the ages as planets, ending with Jupiter and 50 as the peak.
Right. Culminating age, best for guiding and ruling. Then Saturn, Uranus, Neptune unplaced. A neat, if symbolic, mapping.
Wow. Okay, that's been a really deep dive into Schopenhauer's Counsels and Maxims. We've hit on so much. His view of happiness, self-reflection, dealing with others, solitude, fate, age.
It's a lot, and definitely not light reading. These are practical counsels, but, well, They're pretty stark, drawn right from the material you brought us. It's a consistent worldview, even if it leans heavily towards pessimism.
It certainly does. And he leaves us, or rather the preacher he quotes leaves us, with that incredibly challenging thought to mull over as we finish. The day of death is better than the day of one's birth.
Yeah. A perspective that really makes you stop and think, suggesting maybe the goal is just getting through it, and the end holds more peace than the beginning ever could. A provocative note indeed.